Everybody, Mark Powers with Imagine Better, and today I have a very special guest in studio with me, Mr. Bob Marsh. Bob?
Mark, good to see you.
Thanks for making the commute out to Rochester, Michigan.
Where's this interesting person you're talking to?
I don't know. I think he's around here.
Okay.
I don't know.
Right.
Well, I'll settle for you then.
We'll just have a chat then.
So, I met Bob, obviously, officially just today. But a good friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, Josh Linkner, who many of you know, put me in touch with Bob and thought that Bob would bring a lot of value to Imagine Better. So here we are. I mean, Bob, you're with ImpactEleven. Tell us a little bit about your backdrop for those that don't know of you.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, my
and
pleasure.
How fun to just have like a live conversation. This is beautiful. This is beautiful.
Thank you.
So my background is in entrepreneurship, executive leadership, really with a lot of tech companies. I've founded 3 different companies, sold 2 different companies, raised millions in venture capital, sold into some of the top brands in the world. And over the time, I started getting into professional speaking and started doing a little speaking on my own. And then in January this year, joined ImpactEleven as Chief Revenue Officer, which we can talk a little bit about. But my background's largely been on the sales and executive side of things, with entrepreneurial and fast-growing companies, and that's kind of the space that I love.
Yeah. So your trademark is winning with simplicity, or with simplicity.
Winning with simplicity.
With simplicity. Yeah. And we're going to kind of talk a little bit about how Bob helps executives and others really up their game, mostly in the professional side, right?
Yeah.
In their career side.
I mean, it's funny. A lot of times I do, which I'm glad. Like, I do these keynote speeches, and people will walk away saying, "Wow, like that changed how I think of things in my career, but also in my personal life too." So when you can balance a little bit of both of them, that's really powerful, because work and personal life go together, which is a whole other conversation. But I really believe that, and that's for sure both.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because a lot of people are really good at one or the other. Very few people know how to really bring that work-life balance. Yeah. Right? I could be a very good leader, mentor across my organization, just the rock star of my culture, and then I come home and I feel like that's not my thing. So there's a lot of people, and I mean, that's not me in my life, but there's people I know that they struggle with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the whole idea, like work-life balance, right? That's the phrase that we all hear about.
Yeah.
I've never been. I never liked that statement. It implies that you have to do both.
Right.
I just think it's integrated. It's not a balance of the two. It's about having an integrated life.
Yeah.
And because the reality is, if things aren't going well at home, they're probably not going to go very well at work. And if things aren't going well in the office, they're probably not going very well at home. Right. So the idea is it's got to be an integrated experience.
Yeah.
We actually, one of the company that I founded, it was a tech company, good success story. And one of our main cultural values was something called One Life. And it's the fact that you've got to have these 2 things integrated. And we really believed that and understood that, which meant you give people flexibility when they need it, but also we expect a lot of people, when they can put the energy into it. So it's got to be integrated. So
yeah. Oh, I agree with that. And if you guys have any ideas or comments or questions, drop them in the comments below. Love to see what your thoughts are, and we'll get back to you on those. So tell us a little bit about some of the you do a lot of keynotes.
Yeah, the winning with simplicity.
Yeah, walk me through that.
So the background on this is, I think it was 2008. I was doing my daily kind of routine in the morning, reading the Wall Street Journal before I head off for the day, grab my coffee. And I came across this article about a trio of economists who had won the Nobel Prize for something called friction theory. And I don't normally read about Nobel Prize, like this is not, like, look at my grades where I was not like an economist, this is not. But it grabbed my attention because the friction theory was a evidence they had that the friction that exists between buyers and sellers, like just alone, friction is as important to driving economic growth as the historical beliefs about supply and demand.
Okay.
So as an example, if somebody is trying to buy a house or trying to sell their home,
right,
because they're trying to move to for a new job in some other city, and they struggle to sell their home because there's friction between buyers finding their home, being in the right price point, and kind of finding that proper balance.
Yeah.
That friction alone is now preventing this person from going to a new market and getting a new job and fulfilling it. Now all of a sudden unemployment in that market is affected, and the company has unemployment levels because they can't fill the position. And so just using that simple example, and you exaggerate that across an entire economy, you realize a simple idea of friction alone has a meaningful impact on an overall economy. And so the reason that hit me was because it made me feel that in my role as a sales leader and a salesperson, if I could just think about how do we remove friction between the buyer and the seller, between the way we go to market, just the elimination of friction can actually move our company forward and actually move our economy forward.
Gotcha.
And so it kind of connected me to this almost a higher calling of how do I as a salesperson, this kind of thing that has its own perception over the course of time, is actually something that's good for the overall economy in the world. That just changed the way I think of things. And so when you think about friction, anywhere we can remove friction, it generally comes down to things that are very simple.
Right.
Fundamentals and simple adjustments in the way we think and the way we operate remove friction. And so that leads to the whole idea of winning with simplicity by removing friction in many different places, which we can certainly get deeper into.
Yeah, I mean, what a concept, because think about life's not simple. It's heavy for a lot of people. It's complex. But it intrigued me when you talk about this, removing this friction and just making life simple, winning overall with simplicity. That's crazy to really think about. But listening to you now speak about that, I mean, I'm just like, okay, that makes sense. However, removing that friction, I can only imagine at times, is not the easiest part. That's where my guess is that how you might be able to help these sales leaders, right? These leaders in the corporations understand that in more depth, I would imagine, right?
So we'll walk through the different areas.
Yeah, walk me through it.
So first of all, stepping back a little bit more. So that's kind of the friction idea. But you're right. The world is getting more complicated. Okay. And to think about what's happening. So information overload. It's always been a challenge. Yeah. Think information overload is getting any worse? It's just coming at us left and right. So put a little data behind it. In 20 years ago, the average human being would take in 74 gigabytes of information. Today, the average human being takes in 74 gigabytes of information in a single day. Okay, one day. Now, to give you a point of reference, that's 16 full-length movies in one single day. Okay.
That's a lot of binge
Find some
watching.
good movies and maybe you can have a good time that day. But this is increasing every single year by another 5%. So it's getting worse. And as a point of reference, if you go back in time, 500 years ago, the average human would take in 74 gigabytes of information in an entire lifetime.
Oh my, yeah.
It makes sense. It was a different time. The point is, information overload's getting worse, and it affects our decision making and how we kind of. Now, our brains are actually designed to adapt to this. It's called selective attention. Our brains figure out what should I pay attention to and what can I ignore. Right. So when you think about as a leader, as a seller, that everyone's brain is going through some processing of what should I pay attention to about what you're saying, what should I pay attention to whether it's in that extraordinarily long email, what should I pay attention to and what should I ignore. Right. And so if we understand that, it changes the way we communicate. Interesting. Second area is our attention spans. They're shrinking. They stink. Right. And we all feel it. And
I'm guilty of that a lot of times.
Of course, and it's getting worse. So again, when you understand information overload, shrinking attention spans, it changes the way you start thinking about. I look at that as those are points of friction in communication and how we get people to motivated to do things. So the simple thing is how do we eliminate some of that friction? And I believe you can do that in ways that are actually quite simple. Okay. So which we can get into, but that's kind of going back in the background. So let me just start with one simple example. Confidence. So there's something that I share that I call noise canceling confidence. All right. So the analogy here. So in 1978, Dr. Amer Bose was on a flight from the U.S. back home to Switzerland, and he goes to put on his headphones, listens to music. Remember the kind you have the two little prongs stick in the thing, exactly. And then you put them on. There's like 8 things on the dial. It sounds terrible. Right. And so he's an audio engineer, an MIT professor, and he's like, this is a terrible experience. He pulls out his notebook and starts designing what 10 years later became the world's first commercially available noise canceling headphones.
Oh my!
So the way these work is that there's a speaker, a microphone on the exterior, takes in some noise, electronic converts the sound waves, creates cancellation into the speaker, cancels out the noise. Now I use this analogy because we all deal with noise in our own lives.
Oh, yeah.
Distractions from other people, intimidation from a customer. We have an employee who's being difficult, and it changes the way we think and we operate.
Right.
And so, we don't speak up about things that we know are true.
Yeah.
We don't push back on a customer about something we know to be incorrect. We are hesitant to have a difficult conversation with an employee because we're afraid of their reaction. Those are all points of friction. And it all comes down to our confidence. So there's a fascinating book I read recently called You Have More Influence Than You Think.
Okay.
And the crux of the book is that people are twice as likely to say yes to our requests than we give ourselves credit for. Okay,
that is true.
Twice as likely. So here's a great example in this book. It was research point. So they're trying to study people's willingness to speak up. Just that simple concept.
Right.
Okay. So first phase of the study, somebody walks into a doctor's office. They're the subject of the study. They don't realize it, of course. They walk into the doctor's office, they check in for an appointment. They go sit down in the waiting room all by themselves. Nobody else is there. A few minutes go by, and a little bit of smoke is sent into the room. They want to see, is the person going to speak up? 75% of the time, the person says, hey, I think we got a problem. 75. Now, it makes you wonder, what about the other 25%?
Right, exactly.
Well,
Let the building burn.
It's been running away. I don't know. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. Next phase of the study, they add one other person to that room. This person's part of the study, specifically instructed not to react when that smoke comes in, creating a little bit of social pressure. So now that smoke comes in, this person's 75% likely to say, hey, we got a problem. But they look over and like, why isn't that guy reacting? What's going on here?
Wow,
and they start questioning. 38% of the time, someone's willing to speak up. It drops in half.
Oh my God.
Add one more person to the room and it plummets to 12%.
Really?
This is in a building that might be on fire, sitting with totally complete strangers, right? So the point of this is it brings to life, it's a very natural human thing,
right,
that we tend to hold back, even on things that we know for fact to be true. That's an example of friction in our own minds that gets in the way of our performance.
Okay.
So if you're afraid to speak up in a building that might be on fire with a stranger, how do you react when you're intimidated by your boss?
Exactly.
How do you act when you're worried about how your employee is going to react?
Yeah.
How do you react when you're in a sales meeting with a really important prospect and you know this is going to be the difference between hitting my number and losing?
Right.
Is that we get in our own head.
Yeah.
And so those are examples of friction that are very simply solved.
Yeah.
By you build more confidence in other people and build more trust from customers just by being more confident in yourself.
I tell you, that is so true, Bob. I mean, I just tend to call it, I self-sabotage myself a lot.
Sure.
When you go into...
You do? What's wrong with you? How could you do that?
Isn't that crazy? What's that? Human.
Don't, exactly. That's the point about it.
But, it's so interesting because you're so spot on. It's like the mindset. And if our mindset's not correct, and the changes that we're trying to implement throughout our life, both our personal life and our professional life, I mean, we're just going to be walking around as a train wreck all the time because we're not making those important decisions. We're not having the confidence to reach out and ask for that opportunity, or in this case, smoke in a room saying, hey guys, we might be burning up here. Let's get out. You just sit and go, Bob's not saying anything. Maybe he likes bonfires.
Yeah. And so the way that we communicate has a meaningful difference on relationships.
Isn't that crazy to think about, though?
Think about the example. Like, I had a client recently, and they were they were in the commercial furniture space. Okay. And the salesperson's trying to get this deal done. Like, the client's moving into a new office. Furniture's got to be there on time. Salesperson, like, just giving a very specific example. Salesperson is like, I can't guarantee it. Like, I don't know the supply chain. I don't know how this stuff works. Like, I'm going to do the best that I can. The client's like, well, this is my job on the line. Like, I need to do this. Yeah. So they're getting frustrated back and forth. Can't seem to come to resolution. So the salesperson talks to his boss. Says, I'm struggling to get this closed. They want to guarantee. We can't guarantee it. And she's like, let me call the client. Let me see what they have to say. She calls the client and says, hey, I understand you're concerned about your order, and you got this move-in date, etc. Yes, when it's on the page. And she goes, okay. Well, here's the thing. I have a high degree of confidence the furniture's all going to arrive in time. Let's just start there. but I can't guarantee it. And the reason is because this is the way that the supply chain works. Like, we don't run the manufacturer. Like, but what we've done is we have this unique process where we look at your move-in date, your design. We layer it against the suppliers. We have the highest degree of confidence will actually be here in time. We know where they are in the supply chain.
Right.
So it is very likely all this is going to be here in time. But I'll tell you what, I'll keep an eye on your order, and if anything's going sideways, I'll let you know. We'll react accordingly. No different than any other company, by the way.
Right.
And the customer says, okay, great, that's what I needed to hear. Let's move forward. Salesperson is like flabbergasted. I had the same conversation with a client, but they did not. Because the salesperson is intimidated. They're trying to just make sure the customer stays happy. He's a little bit argumentative. Like, he's defensive. Like, he's just stuck in this like confidence and not willing to say like, hey, look I think it's going to be here in time.
Right.
It's not a guarantee, but I think it's going to be, and I'm the expert.
These are the reasons.
I'm the expert in this here. Like, I live in this world.
Right.
But the manager, on the other hand, had a very different point of view. Actually, I'm sorry, had the same point of view, but communicated it with just a little bit more confidence.
Right.
And that is an example of there was friction in that relationship. There was no difference in what actually was going to happen.
Right.
But the friction, the communication, which was rooted in confidence, was very simply solved by just communicating with a little more clarity and confidence. That alone made that deal happen. So now start exaggerating that over multiple opportunities in sales and employee relationships, and it adds up. It's just that simple act of confidence.
Yeah. So in your line of work at ImpactEleven, you guys help obviously prepare people, to help them become better presenters and as leaders, how to, just be overall better sales individuals. Tell us a little bit more about ImpactEleven and that journey. I mean, you've been with that company now. Well,
I've been with the company for 6 months.
6 months.
But I go way back with the founders.
Yeah.
Also, I hired ImpactEleven to help me launch my professional speaking business.
Did you?
So,
Okay.
I'm deep. I've been very deep with this organization for some time. Yeah. So what we do, the company started largely to help professional speakers launch and grow their professional speaker practice. Okay. And how it fundamentally started was Josh Lankner, who you mentioned before.
Yeah.
A mutual friend of ours.
Hi, Josh.
He started professional speaking in 2010 after we had exited around the time we had exited ePrize.
Yeah.
And he just was one of those people, was a good presenter, speaker, wanted to go out there and do it professionally. Had extraordinary growth, very quickly kind of became one of the top speakers in the industry. And people started coming to him like, how are you growing so fast? I've been a speaker, an innovation speaker for 20 years and you've blown right past me. And so what he learned is he applied his business experience to the world of professional speaking about branding and packaging and positioning and pricing and channel relationships. It's just very natural things to him, but not natural to other people. So people started calling and asking for advice. And he's a very genuine, wants to help other people.
Yeah.
He believes in, there's something he talks about, give generously, don't keep score. Like, he just likes to kind of help other people.
I like
he's
that.
Not keeping track
give
of.
Generously,
don't keep score. It's one of our main cultural values.
That is really cool.
So over time, as his speaking business was growing, he's like, I can't take all these calls, but I feel like there's a lot of people that need help. So we started running these individual training programs where people would pay us to start learning about the world of professional speaking. So it's grown. We do events to bring speakers together to teach them about the industry. We have an annual membership program to help professional speakers advance their practice. We do coaching programs. So it's all about helping professional speakers either grow an existing practice that they've already got. They're doing a little bit, but they want to do more. They want to get more professional about it.
Right.
Or someone wants to get into the world of professional speaking, which is what I did about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
The other part of our business, which I'm very excited about, it's a new offering and is very consistent with some of the things that you and I were just talking about. Right. Is that we help corporate leaders and executives be better communicators.
Oh yeah.
So, as an example, what happens is oftentimes a leader, an executive, a salesperson, whoever it might be in a company, they're very smart and savvy about their industry, their products, the company, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Great people like them, the whole thing. But as soon as you put that person in front of a group, to have to stand up and speak, or to give an important communication message, or put them on a stage, all of a sudden, they're robotic, they're reading, they need a teleprompter, they don't know how to move their body, and they don't know the proper structure to deliver a message that can be heard.
Right.
And it's a shame because these are wonderful people that have an opportunity to move and influence a group, customers, employees, maybe a jury. We're investors like across the board.
Right.
But that simple ability to tell a story, have some structure to the way you communicate, and doing that effectively is what's missing. And so this new program we're doing is to help executives and leaders be better communicators and communicate with more confidence and influence. We just ran we've been doing this on a private consulting basis for about 2 years.
Okay.
And last week we launched our first event, which is a ticketed event. It's called the Academy. And we had 50 plus executives come in from all over the country to learn kind of what we call the presentation mastery imperative. The belief that effective, persuasive communication is the most important yet least developed skill in the business world today. And so we're here to fix that.
I love it. If you guys have questions about ImpactEleven, how Bob can help, I'll have all the information in the description of this episode, and please reach out to them. And this is going to be, an opportunity for you to really reach out to Bob and get some expert advice and guidance, and maybe we'll get Josh involved some way, somehow. Who knows? Probably not, but you never know, right?
We'll see.
But no, this is awesome. I can tell you right now, when I was looking at ImpactEleven, I didn't study the whole site, but I was thinking to myself, I need that. Like legit, I need that, because it's probably been 3 years since I've done any kind of public speaking. Not so much true. Last year I did a little engagement. This year I was invited to October 3rd to, I think it's October 3rd, Disrupt HR Detroit.
Sure. Yeah.
So they asked me to come in and talk about some topics that I normally talk about. So I have a book that I wrote. I talk about that a little bit. But this show is really the thing that's been getting more attention, and that whole Imagine Better concept around professional and personal life structure.
That's great.
So, I'd love to talk to you after the show today just to understand a little bit more.
Yeah, love to have you.
So again, do you have a specific audience in mind when you're, trying to bring on new clients? Is there a certain industry?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things. So I'll first talk about ImpactEleven, then more, as a keynote speaker. So the ImpactEleven audience, again, there's two different kind of main offerings. One is people who are professional speakers, or those who aspire to be professional speakers.
Okay.
The latter, as an example, is people like you. Say, I have a consulting business. I've got a nice business going. I'm a thought leader, podcast host, author, all those things.
Right.
Usually, people say exactly what you just said. I've spoken a few times. Sometimes I get paid. Sometimes I don't.
Right.
But I really like doing that. Yeah. It allows me to make a bigger impact on the world, and it could be a very lucrative business if you do it right. Yeah. But it is a business. Yeah. And so what we do is we work with people who are like, all right, I want to really make an investment in my time and some money to grow and build a professional speaking practice, either from scratch or I'm already doing it. I want to accelerate it.
Right.
That's that audience. Generally, we work with people in North America. Our events are here in the United States, so we can kind of serve those best. Although we do have clients that are all over the world, because we have a virtual element to what we do. And then on the within that, on the corporate side, we're seeing people from all sorts. This event we just did last week as an example. We had founders, we had CEOs, C-level executives, we had director level, we had 10 different attorneys in the room. They're just learning to communicate better because they're larger law firms with their teams, with clients. Right. We had salespeople in the room that want to get better presenting or trying to better position themselves to grow and excel in their career, to move up to more leadership levels. So we've seen doctors talk to us about, hey, how do I influence a team better in the hospital? Right. There's all kinds of reasons. So that is pretty varied in terms of the audience.
Now, is this like I'm making an 8-week course that you put them through, or? What's that program look like?
So right now, there's 3 different offerings. Okay. One is the Academy, which is the event that we ran last week in Detroit.
Right.
2, it was a day-and-a-half event. We're running that. We're going to run that about every 3 months. So we have another one coming up in late September. Yeah. Again, it's called the Academy, ticketed event. Then the second thing we do is and that's a day and a half. You buy a ticket, you attend for a day and a half, and that's kind of it.
Nice.
The second thing we do is coaching, which we can do on a personal, individual coaching basis, which goes over the course of about 10 weeks. or you can do group coaching where you come in with a group of others and you're kind of all going through this program together.
Okay.
The last thing that we have is something we call the Academy Comes to You. This is for larger organizations that are very committed to the idea of how do we drive improved communication for all of our leaders across the organization. And we'll essentially do this day and a half event.
Yeah. And
we'll customize it for your organization. We'll come in to your organization and run this event for your leaders specifically. Because a lot of people say, hey, well, if I have us all together, so that's that offering.
Yeah.
We are going to continue. I mean, we're entrepreneurs. We're going to keep evolving. I mean, there's all kinds of ideas we have to be able to do ongoing coaching and development. But those are the 3 primary offerings that we have right now.
Dude, that's solid.
Yeah.
That is really cool. I mean, you know, I think anytime that somebody, like, I'm constantly thirsty for improving myself, right? Becoming more and more intelligent if I can, if that is a thing. I mean, I never want to be the smartest guy in a room. I'm always listening. You know, like a lot of people will talk more than I do when I meet with them, and it's like, I want to understand, you know, what the subject matter expert has to say. So I'll just, a lot of times I have zero opinion, no expectation when I walk into an event like that or a training seminar of any sort. I just want to learn. And so, you know, but for me, selfishly, I want to know more about this because I need to polish myself up now, right? It's a whole different thing. I do have the confidence, I really do. Sometimes I sit here in front of this camera and I start with the person next to me going, man, this guy's got a lot of way more confidence than I do, and then I don't know why. Then I start to kind of
that's in our heads.
Yeah, it's in our heads, like you were saying earlier.
Yes.
So I need to learn to divert that to the confidence level that I know I have and dig deep and bring that out. So it's interesting that, I mean, it sounds like you guys really help, you know, set the mindset, get that fire burning inside, right? So talk about the keynote stuff because, you know,
I want to really quick on that last point. So the confidence at a fundamental level is very important.
Yeah.
However, that's just step number 1.
Okay.
So at this event and in our coaching, one of the first things we talk about is to start by looking inward, which is really that kind of thing, like believing in yourself. Why does communication matter? You know, oftentimes there's this fallacy that I think we call the transfer bias. So you think like, well, I'm smart, people like me, so I must be a good presenter. Yeah. And that's just not true.
It's not true.
So the point is that you start by looking inward and really understanding, like, geez, this is something I can get better at. I didn't realize this could be trained and developed. I didn't have an appreciation for how important it is. And maybe I am kind of affecting myself by my confidence and that sort of thing. So that's kind of the looking inward part. Then we start getting into, all right, what are the fundamentals, the building blocks, the tools, the systems, the frameworks for telling a great story.
Right.
How to move yourself around. Last week we even talked about attire and body language, and you know, all of these things matter. So, but if you start by looking inward, then you start looking and talking about the tools of like how to identify a problem statement, how to kind of communicate a transformation, the importance of storytelling.
Oh, I love
how to tell a story, what kind of stories to look for, how to figure out the right thing, how to use research points, how to structure what you're going to talk about. And you can do this either be prepared for, hey, I'm about to go walk into a team meeting and stand in front of 100 people on our team, or I'm about to walk into a meeting with a CEO and I want to make sure that I make the most of that what we call high impact moment. So it's about looking inward, yes, and then building the tools on top of it to do this all effectively.
So where did the name ImpactEleven come from? There are 11 of you guys?
So Impact, we're trying to make a bigger impact on the world.
Right.
Our mission is that we believe that people, like you as an example, have an important story that the world has to hear.
Right.
There's something that needs to go out there. And so if the idea is that if we could help a professional speaker, a thought leader, more effectively deliver a message on stage, and they can influence that audience and change the way they think about the world, maybe change their mindset, make small 2-centimeter shifts in the way that they approach, that they can have a more successful, happier, more meaningful life.
Oh, I agree.
So the idea is that if we can help people like you as an example, or the hundreds of others we work with, be better communicators to get that message out, that's how we can make a bigger impact on the world.
I love it.
So we're trying to unlock that so that we can kind of make that impact. 11 is hey, rate things on a scale of 1 to 10, why not 11? So let's just crank it up and do a little bit more. So that's
interesting.
I like to have a little
I'm
bit
sitting there envisioning there's
fun.
11 of you sitting at the office. And, you know.
We get this question all the time. Like, what's up with the 11? It's like, hey, why go to 10 when you can go to 11?
Right. Well, and then I have some friends, and I think Josh knows them too, that are from, they're pretty strong math geniuses from MIT, and these guys always say 1 + 1 = 11.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know. I'm just maybe that has something to do with it.
I'd like to understand.
So you know what's interesting about the mindset piece, though, and I love that because you have this whole audience full of people coming to learn, to you know, be able to be a better presenter, to have more confidence. I mean, everything you just mentioned. So there's a level of motivation there, right? For that day and a half or few hour session, and they're getting motivated, they're learning. But then I like the idea that you guys offer the coaching aspect, because that's the post component.
Sure.
I think, and that's the activation. So you can motivate, but you have to learn. People have to learn to motivate, be motivated, but then to activate on that.
Yeah.
Right. You go, and I talk about this a lot.
Yeah. I mean, at the event, at the academy in particular, I mean, you walk a lot of there with very clear, actionable tips. Like, you will be a wildly better communicator, presenter, influencer the minute you walk out of that room. No doubt about it. And we just got, I mean, I was just going through the survey results. I mean, it's off the charts. Like, people are like, 94% of people, I have the tools and tips that I need to be a better communicator.
Nice.
But there's those who are like, all right, I want to step on this more. This is clearly, I want to step on the gas. And those are people that we work with on a more individual basis.
Okay.
And kind of help them kind of take the next steps out of it. So the point is, like, a lot of value you get out of the event itself, but then also some people want to take it a lot further, which is something we can help with. By the way, there's also people who are like, you know what, I learn better on an individual basis.
Right.
I've got a specific meeting or event I'm preparing for, and I've got to nail this moment. You know, that's kind of where the individual coaching can come up.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes we have, very senior level executives of some of the biggest companies in the world. Like, they don't have time to come in for something like this. We'll do more individual one-on-one over the course of several weeks. So that's why it varies.
It's going everywhere. I can just imagine how this applies to so many things. I mean, like you said, if it's just me, I'm an individual, I'm a sales rep, let's say, and I'm going into a meeting, I just want to nail that sale. That account is like very important, can transform my business. I need to have the confidence, and I need to be able to tell the story and have the courage to ask for that business afterwards.
Yep.
Right? So many people, they don't ask. They can be great salespeople. But they forget to ask for the business.
Yeah.
They keep pushing off. Oh, okay. Well, I'll get back to you next week, Bob.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And people tend to do this. And it goes back to, again, the things that I talk about that I'm really passionate about on the keynote side that's just another example of friction. Like, there's a friction in someone's decision making. And so our role as a leader, as a salesperson, whatever it is, like, how do I remove that friction and make it a lot more simple to make a decision? So that's it all wraps together.
So all of you that are speakers in my network, and you know who you are, you got to get a hold of this guy, right? Because you want to step up your game. And there's one person that I know very well that you know who I'm talking about here. His name might be Jacob with the last name Brown. You're going to be an international guy. You might be able to step up your game with ImpactEleven there. So I mean, it's awesome. This is something that I'm very passionate about. I want to learn more about it. When I walk the room, every time if I'm in a sales meeting myself, but I find myself kind of where I struggle maybe a little bit is they're making that eye contact sometimes. With somebody and you're having now, if you're just one-on-one, this is different.
Yeah.
But when you're working the room, it's like, who do you lock onto? Like, who are you really talking to?
Yeah.
I mean, is that part of the process when you're moving and you're communicating to a group?
No doubt. So
Hand
that's
gestures.
Particularly important when you're presenting to a larger group.
Right.
Okay, imagine there's like 25, 50, 100, could be 1,000 people in that room, as if you're a keynote speaker. We absolutely talk about that. I mean, those are things. So I'll just give you a specific tip. So oftentimes, particularly if you're on a larger stage, communicating to an audience, the team members, customers, we tend to, if we're looking around, we start thinking about, like, that person looks bored. That person's not paying attention. And then all of a sudden it starts impeding our ability to communicate. But the reality is there's an enormous amount of people out there that are getting a lot out of this.
Okay.
If you think, if I can just move a few people, like then that's mission accomplished. So a little tip as an example, we say if you're it is helpful to look out in the audience. You want to go look and kind of make people see the connection. Like, if I look at you, we're making a connection.
Yeah.
everyone else in the room knows that we're making a connection, and that makes them feel more connected. Even though I'm not looking at them, this connection, it kind of radiates out, and people feel an element of connection. So the small tip when they're doing this is, yes, look around and look people in the eye. You might keep looking at the same people over and over again. Look at the ones who are like nodding their heads. Like, give yourself that little boost.
Motivate the ones around them.
Little boost that we need. Yeah.
Awesome. I was thinking that, but I wasn't sure if that was part of the process. It makes a lot of sense. You want to get that audience jumping. Look at. I haven't seen any of his stuff in a while, but Tony Robbins, that guy. It seems like he gets his rooms. Just everyone's energized and jumping around. Look at Grant Cardone. That guy can move an audience. Yep. But so it's through that art and that science of
there's so much
what you guys offer that helps us become the best versions of ourselves.
And different speakers, and different leaders have a different type of communication style. So
that would be interesting.
Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, they are ultimate high energy, get that room revved up, and there is absolute science and work that they do, not just in the way that they're communicating and their energy levels, but also what they do to prepare the room, set up the room, how the use of music and sound, how they get other people in there helping rev up the energy. Those are all very calculated, planned things to get that communication across. But there's other leaders who are that's just not their style.
Right.
And there's no doubt that you might have to dial up your energy a little bit from maybe but it's natural. I have a tendency to do that. I feel it right now as an example. I have a little more energy in my voice.
Yeah.
Because when I get talking about these topics, I get excited, I'm passionate about it, and I also know that it helps the message get through.
Right.
If we're out and just having a coffee somewhere, I'm talking to my kids, I'm not always communicating like this. But it's very genuine.
Yeah.
It's not, so it's very, but it just, you learn some of that and how it affects the ability to get your message through. And when the ability to get your message through is your ultimate motivator, you do what you need to do to get that message across.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And so some people aren't the crazy energy levels, not crazy in a bad way, crazy in a great way, like Tony and Grant as an example.
Right.
But you absolutely learn things like where to stand, how to move your body, what to wear.
Yeah.
All these things are important, but you've got to be authentically you.
I agree with that. And that's why, even TEDx, when I watch the talks, and you see a variety of different personalities on their stages, and it's interesting to see the tonality, the way the audience moves, and it's so crazy to see how a personality, if somebody's just really mellow, just kind of crickets in the room. But to your point, so if they're high energy, you're high energy, I could tell. And then watching you on your videos, you move the stage, right? You get across that stage. You do everything you're talking about here, and you find your balance. It's almost like you have to adjust maybe to the audience. Do you ever find yourself having to do that, or you just go, I'm here, I'm just going to go here and bring everyone with me?
You do need to adapt, because if it's a room that is kind of a lower energy room,
right,
you want to do what you can to maybe be a notch or two above them.
I would think
but you can't be if you go too far out, all of a sudden you don't fit in. So so you do have to adapt to the room.
Yeah.
But just like you adapt to any conversation with somebody,
That's true.
So you gotta just adapt, and we learn that in sales.
So what do you like about keynote speaking the best? What gives you that man? That's your thing in life.
Yeah,
because you're good at it.
Well, I appreciate that. And hey, I can get light years better. But and I'm grateful to be surrounded by so many professional speakers that are part of our organization that we work with, because we all learn from each other. Yeah. This idea we're all better to get better together.
Yeah.
But to your question, so I started speaking on stages when I was the founder and CEO of a tech company called Level11. Isn't that odd? Guess who helped me come up with the name of that company? So
you and 11s.
Yeah, sales. It was a sales technology company. But often I would get up on stages as a brand effort. We did it as a way to get our message out. I had strong background in sales leadership and growth, so I could get up on a stage with some credibility, and I could share how to be a better sales leader, how to build a high-performance sales organization, how to build a high-growth sales organization. And so people would like me on stage. But it couldn't be a sales pitch. It had to be genuinely bringing ideas to the audience to help them get better. But when as the CEO of that company, I was like, hey, and by the way, I have a company that can help you do all this. So at that point, I wasn't getting paid. I probably could have. If I look back, I would have done that differently. But whenever I had to get up on on these stages, I felt this extra little level of energy. I'm like, where is that coming from? And it's so powerful. Like, I loved the idea of how do I take a message and break it down in a way that other people can receive it.
Okay.
I just was passionate about, like, how do I structure the message so people can hear the message and make the message get through, and how do I create simplicity in the message all the way through. And then the best part is you have people out there saying, you just said something that changes the way I think about my life.
That's powerful.
How I'm going to approach my career. And I continue to have people that I worked with years ago. Like, we had this one conversation and it changed the way I think about things. Like, that is just, I get chills right now thinking about it because it just happened to me the other day. It just does. So that's what drew me to speak. A combination of, I want to continue making more of an impact.
Right.
I felt this element of energy whenever I did speak. And it's like, you just look at your life and you assess things very simply to say, I like doing that. It gives me energy. I'm going to step into that a little bit more. And so when I did this as a leader, it was always like to try to build our brand. But then when I was ready, I said, I'm going to step into this a little bit more. I'm going to go to one of these ImpactEleven events, learn more about this world of professional speaking. Okay, I like that. I think I could do it. Take another step further into it. And then I started investing and building and growing and building my brand from there. So it's kind of I share that as an example of when you feel passionate about something, just start taking some steps in that direction. Because there's something to, like, what are your natural gifts that maybe you don't uncover until suddenly the light bulb goes off. Just start stepping in that direction. And suddenly you can make a much bigger impact on the world.
I think that's an important part, though, but so many people let fear get in the way of that step.
Sure.
I
think so. I can understand why I didn't go into this fearless.
No, I'm sure.
It was very fearful. It was
the fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown. Can you really do it? And when all of a sudden you start writing a big check of like, hey, I'm going to go invest in this. Like, is this really going to work? Like, how serious am I? There's a difference between I like this and I want to do it. And okay, I'm going to actually dedicate time. I'm gonna spend money to actually invest. All of a sudden, it starts getting very real. But it also, when you want to do it, you know that you can do it successfully, or you're going to take a bet on yourself. It becomes a lot easier to make those choices. But I would overall, I would say, like, to your point, is that there's an element of fear that we all have to overcome, within reason. And take the steps forward and where you feel real energy. There's something that it's all part of my keynote speech. I call it commanding your impact. So I've never liked the idea of time management, because it implies like you can just fit more into your schedule, cross things off your to-do list. I like to think more about how can I manage my impact. And so when you think about, like, where can I make a bigger difference in the world? What are the behaviors and activities that I need to do that are going to create the most leverage in the outcomes that I'm going to get? And so if you prioritize what's important to you, what creates energy, what do you think you're uniquely great at, what do you think you uniquely suck at, and how do you avoid those things or get help around them, then you start leaning in more to the areas where you can create maximum leverage for your skills. And all of a sudden the idea of time management kind of goes away, and it's about, how do I need to prioritize my time and my energy so that I can make a bigger impact? So it all kind of rolls together.
That's a common thing I've been hearing from people on my show. They just don't believe in time management. And you just confirmed this. So how do I manage my impact? I've had people come out here and say, how do I manage the moment? I don't look at a calendar and go, okay, from an hour, 1 hour from now I got to do these things or whatever, and check off the checklist. That I absolutely love. And so you guys, if you're looking to find change in your life and you're struggling trying to figure that change out, again, personal life, professional life, if you're an executive or a business owner and you're looking to transform your life and become a better speaker, so communicate more effectively with your staff, whatever that situation is. Again, I'm going to have all the information down below to reach out to Bob. If you're a company and you're looking to have somebody come in and do a keynote and help your organization get to that next level, again, reach out, comment below. I'll have all the information. Episode 7. There we are.
All right.
We're just this little show just getting started.
Yeah, exactly.
Episode 7.
I'm thrilled to be part of one of the early kind of people that you're talking to. Great conversation. And
I learned a lot today. I'm trying to transform myself, and I'm looking forward to work. I really want to work with you guys. So I got to figure that out, and we'll talk about that. But you guys, Imagine Better, episode 7 with Bob Marsh. Bob, high five, buddy.
Mark, thank you.
Thank you for
Thanks,
all this.
everybody.
You guys have a great day. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Crush the notification button. You don't want to miss all the episodes that are coming up. We have a great lineup. And again, as always, I appreciate your support, your guidance, and your follows. Make sure you share our content so others can learn and have access to this amazing content. Thank you, guys. Booyah.
All right.